Everyone knows how the Great Depression started. October 1929, the market crashes. Wall Street jumps out of windows. The end. Except almost none of that is true. The jumping out of windows part? A myth. And the crash itself was survivable. The market actually started climbing back in early 1930. The thing that turned a bad crash into the worst decade in economic history wasn't a crash at all. It was 3 decisions made by people who thought they were being responsible. So here's the real cause of the Great Depression, the version your textbook rushed past. The 1929 crash destroyed prices, but the Depression destroyed something deeper: money itself. Between 1929 and 1933, roughly a third of all the money in America simply vanished. Not spent, not lost in the market, erased. And it vanished because of 3 specific choices, 3 fatal decisions that took an ordinary financial panic and starved it into a catastrophe. Let me show you the gap, because this is the part that breaks people's brains. The Dow peaked in September 1929 at 381. By the summer of 1932, it hit 41, an 89% collapse. Still, the worst in the history of the American market. Brutal. But here's the number nobody quotes: unemployment. In 1929, it was around 3%. 1 year after the crash, bad, but not apocalyptic. Then it kept climbing. 8%, 15%. And by 1933, 4 years after the crash everyone blames, it hit 25%. 1 in 4 working Americans, no job. The crash happened in a month. The Depression took years to build. So remember that gap? We're coming back to it. It's the whole story. Fatal decision number 1. They let the banks die. In 1929, America had about 25,000 banks. Now, when a rumor starts that your bank might be shaky, what do? You run to pull your money out. Everyone does. And here's the thing about a bank. It doesn't keep your money in a vault. It lends most of it out. So, if everyone shows up on the same morning, even a perfectly healthy bank can't pay, and it dies. Not because it was broke, because everyone was afraid it might be. Fear became the fact. There's supposed to be a firefighter for exactly this: the Federal Reserve. Its entire job, the reason it was built in 1913, is to be the lender of last resort. When banks are drowning, the Fed creates emergency money, hands it over, and stops the panic. That's the job. In the early 1930s, the Fed mostly didn't do it. It sat on its hands, and the banks fell like dominoes. By 1933, roughly 9,000 of them gone. And when a bank dies, it doesn't just take the building, it takes every dollar inside it. That's how a third of the nation's money supply evaporated. Not a metaphor, the actual supply of dollars shrank by nearly a third. Milton Friedman won a Nobel partly for proving this. The Depression wasn't a failure of capitalism. It was the fire department refusing to show up. Fatal decision number 2. And this one, over 1,000 economists literally begged them not to make. June 1930. The economy's already wobbling, and Congress passes the Smoot-Hawley Tariff. In plain English, enormous new taxes on more than 20,000 imported goods. The logic sounds almost reasonable. Tax foreign stuff, people buy American. American jobs are safe. A group of 1,028 economists signed an open letter in the New York Times begging President Hoover to veto it. He signed it anyway. Here's what they forgot. Every other country has a pen too. America raised the wall, so the rest of the world raised theirs right back. Canada, France, Britain, retaliation. Global trade didn't slow down, It fell off a table, collapsing by roughly 2/3 in a few years. Every farmer with grain to sell, every factory with goods to ship, the customers on the other side of the ocean just vanished. They tried to protect the economy by sealing it in a jar, and the thing inside suffocated. Fatal decision number 3 is the most invisible and the most important, because it explains why the smartest people in the room made the first two. In 1929, the world ran on the gold standard. Every dollar was a promise, a claim on a specific sliver of actual gold in a vault. It sounds sober, responsible, real money backed by real metal. But gold came with a curse. To defend it, to keep enough metal to honor all those dollars, a country had to keep money tight and expensive, at the exact moment its economy was begging for the opposite. So while people were desperate for cash, the rulebook said, no. Protect the gold, print less, raise rates, squeeze the economy dry to keep the vault full. Here's the tell, the proof this was the trap. Historians later lined up every major country by one thing: how fast it abandoned the gold standard. And the pattern was almost perfect. The nations that broke free of gold first recovered first. The ones that clung to it longest, like the United States, holding on until 1933, suffered longest. They weren't worshiping gold because it worked. They worshipped it because they couldn't imagine money being anything else. Step back and look at all three. Let the banks die. Choke off trade. Worship gold. Notice what they share, because this is the lesson worth the whole video. Assisting of those decisions was about protecting a number. The value of the dollar, the gold reserve, the balance sheet. And in protecting the numbers, they destroyed the thing the numbers were supposed to measure. This is the difference nobody teaches you. A price is a number. Value is a relationship. The crash of 1929 was a price event, a number falling. Painful, but numbers recover. The Great Depression was a value event, the slow collapse of the relationships that make an economy, the trust that your bank opens tomorrow, that a dollar still buys bread, that the stranger across the ocean still trades with you. Money isn't metal. Money isn't even the number in your account. Money is a shared belief that everyone else will keep playing the game. In the 1930s, one bad month broke the price. Then, 3 decisions broke the belief. And that, not the crash, is what took a decade to repair. And if that gave you a slightly cold feeling in your chest, good, because the market lately doesn't feel entirely attached to reality. Trillions piled onto a handful of AI companies. Prices that only make sense if you believe the story keeps going. Everyone quietly asking the same question. Is this a bubble? Here's the honest answer, and it's not the doom you're bracing for. History doesn't repeat. It rhymes. The lesson of the 1930s was never, a crash will destroy you. Crashes are just prices correcting. The real lesson is what you do the morning after. In 2008, and again in 2020, the fire department actually showed up. The Fed flooded the system with money, the exact move it refused to make in 1931. That's not luck. Somebody read the history. But the other 2 ghosts? They're stirring. Tariffs are back in fashion. Trade walls are rising again. The temptation to protect the number instead of the belief never really goes away. So watch the next crash, whenever it comes, and don't watch the price. Watch the decisions. That's where depressions are actually made. Here's the uncomfortable thing underneath all of this. If money is just a shared belief, then what gives it value in the first place? Why is the paper in your wallet worth anything at all? That's not rhetorical. It has a genuinely strange answer, and I took it apart in another video. It's right there. I'll see you in it. And obviously, I'm a guy explaining history with a cartoon dog, not your financial advisor. Invest accordingly.